Greetings, brethren. What a glorious day. We're entering into a glorious week. Passover's coming up. And then the 7 days of unleavened bread. I know a majority of people believe the Passover's already started, but that is not correct. And that's what this video I'm about to do that's mostly about is the calendar. Because I promised you all I would go over it. And I actually did this video last Wednesday. And I thought I posted it on YouTube. But I happened to check earlier this evening and it didn't post. So I read somewhere that it says when things happen electronically or mechanically that are weird or out of the ordinary, sometimes it might be an angel intervening. So, and I did forget to mention a lot of things in that video, so I'm actually glad to do it and to redo it and get everything that I needed to mention into this video. So, one thing I like to do in my pastime is watch videos about dreams or prophetic words. And a lot of times what the people are saying that they got from dreams or prophetic words, it's what I've been saying for the past 3 years in my videos, but I got it from studying. They got it from dreams or prophetic words. I got it from studying, but they match up. It's extremely interesting. Like, one of the things is a lot of people are having dreams about being left behind, even though they're Christians. And they're puzzled by it, or they try to write it off as if, they were left behind in their dream. But when it really happens, they're not going to be left behind. Well, it's because there's more than one rapture. Okay? And that's what I show in my videos. There's 4 raptures, not one. 3 of them are main harvest raptures, and one is it's kind of like a re-rapture of the 144,000. Because the 144,000 are actually raptured, technically, at the second rapture. They're in the clouds. They might even possibly go into New Jerusalem. And for those 30 days, they're getting trained, sealed, given power or whatever, and then they're sent back for their mission, their special mission. But then, after they're killed by the beasts in the midst of the week, 7 years of wrath, they get raptured up. And the new believers, because the 144,000, their special mission is to give humanity one last opportunity. They're preaching the gospel during the wrath, the 7-year wrath, the 71st week. And in the midst of the week, the mark is set up, and the first ones who are killed for refusing the mark are the 144,000. And then they get raptured up. Yeah, I know. It says the 2 witnesses, but the 2 witnesses are the 144,000. It's the 2 kingdoms of Israel, the northern and southern. The kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. The olive trees. But anyway, so these people are having dreams of being left behind, even though they're believers. It's because most believers are going to be left behind. I know that's what your pastors haven't been teaching you for these many years, but it's the truth. The vast majority of believers are going to be left behind. Even I might be left behind. I'm not trying to give myself some type of false hope that I'm the cream of the crop that rises to the top or anything like that. So, most people that hear this video will be left behind. It's just the way it is. The vast majority of believers are going to be left behind. I would estimate that going by the fact that the tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, and you had the Levites. So you're looking at like 1/12. So and we don't know, or I should say I don't know, if that's including the dead, which I would think it would. The Levite or the Congregation of Philadelphia, because the Congregation of Philadelphia, the wise virgins, the elders, they are all the same group, right? They're interchangeable. The elders in New Jerusalem, in Revelation 4, they are the Congregation of Philadelphia. You see that the Messiah promises the Congregation of Philadelphia 4 things, and then all those things are fulfilled in the elders in the following chapter in Revelation 4. Why? Because they're the same group, which are the wise virgins in the parable of virgins. They enter the door. The Congregation of Philadelphia enter the door. The elders are in New Jerusalem because they entered the door that John sees. The portal, the wormhole that opens in space. And boom, immediately I was in New Jerusalem at the throne. So I estimate it's going to be like 100 million to 200 million people. But how many of them are already dead? Because most of the early church were the ones that were obeying the commandments and keeping the Sabbath. The modern church doesn't do that. The majority. So, how many people are going to actually be removed? I don't know. I'm figuring 50 to 100 million. But another dream that a lot of people are having is about 2 moons. And this is another confirmation of what I've been sharing via the scripture, is that in the 6th seal, New Jerusalem comes. All right. Currently, New Jerusalem is in the core of the sun. But in the sixth seal, there's a gigantic wormhole that opens in Revelation 6:14. And New Jerusalem comes through that wormhole. And the effects of that massive energy of opening the wormhole and New Jerusalem pushing through like a birth, a womb, the womb of space opening up, birthing New Jerusalem through it. That massive amount of energy pushing through is what causes the effects of the sixth seal. Stars falling, waves roaring, tsunamis. Every mountain and island moved out of their place because it interrupts our rotation, and the G-forces of our rotation, what keeps the crust stable. But since that's interrupted, the crust is going to wobble on the liquid underneath the crust, which is the earth wobbling to and fro in Isaiah. So, the first wormhole in Revelation 4, the portal in space that John sees, the wise virgins go through that and go to New Jerusalem, which is the first rapture. The second portal in Revelation 6:14 is a gigantic wormhole. Why? Because the first portal only spirits got to go through. The second portal, wormhole, New Jerusalem comes through. Okay? And boom, New Jerusalem's almost the size of the moon. It has a shell that is 200 plus feet thick of diamond. I know it doesn't say diamond in the scripture, but golden crystal, it's diamond. Right? Diamond's a crystal. And if you actually do the calculations, 200 feet thick plus feet thick of diamond, the size of New Jerusalem, you put it in the calculations, it can actually handle the pressures of space. But anyway, that's why these people are having dreams of two moons, because it's actually New Jerusalem. And like I show via the scripture, New Jerusalem blasts the moon to smithereens, because that's where the devil's headquarters is, Gog. And then he takes him and throws him to the earth. All right. And another dream that a lot of people have been having, and interesting, it happened at the exact time, on the exact, or I should say not on the exact day, but the time frame of the day of Zechariah 1, the red horse rider. People were having these dreams of horses and fire. I heard about 4 or 5 of them. Extremely interesting. Okay. So I'm going to do a little bit in this video about the calendar and a few high watch potentials. Because one thing I always look out for high watches is in Revelation 1, when John's getting the vision, he says that he's in the Spirit on the Lord's day. So what is the Lord's day? Is it the Sabbath? Is it a specific feast day? And from what I can see is the Sabbath is referred to as the Lord's day, but I also see Passover. The Lord's Passover. And it's a day. So I think that may be a clue. Because when When you look at what the Messiah is saying, in Matthew 24, when he says, no one knows the day or the hour. Okay. Now, I personally believe, I may not be correct, but I personally believe that that's a reference to the ancient Galilean wedding ritual. All right? And when you look into the Greek, the word for day, it's actually talking about a specified period of time and time within a day. It doesn't have to literally mean a day. It could just mean that time period within that day. And then he says, the day or hour. Which, when you look into the Greek about the word for hour, it could literally mean a literal hour. So what I think the Messiah is saying, it's not, I personally don't think he's saying no man can know a good understanding of the day. What I think he's saying is that no one knows the time period within that day, meaning no one knows the exact hour. That's what I think he's saying. Why? Because then when you look further on, whether it's Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, he'll go on to say, will it be in the evening, at midnight, when the rooster crows, which is the reveille of the Roman, or in the first watch, right? You see what I'm saying? So, what I'm trying to say is for people who don't try to, that they just try to write this off and be like, oh, it's pointless. No one knows the day or the hour. I think they are incorrect. We can focus in. Right? Yeah, we might not get the exact day, but we might get the exact timing within a week. And maybe we can get the exact day. We just don't know what time within that day, which is what the Messiah was saying. Will it be in the evening, at midnight, in the first watch, the second watch, the third watch, the fourth watch? What watch will it be in? I think that's what he's saying. No man knows the watch in which I will come. The exact hour, no one knows. Only the Father knows. That's what I think he's saying in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. So what does that mean? Well, that means if we love our Messiah and his the beginning of his coming is what we're looking for, our great hope. Well, in my opinion, the math is in the scriptures that gives us an idea of when. There's a few things. You got the 120 Jubilee prophecy. You got the 70-week prophecy. We already had the Revelation 12 sign back in 2017. All right? Etc., etc. So keep that in mind while we go through this video. Because there are some major high watches coming up, which I will share. But let's start off with the day. Today is 3/28/2021, 12th day of the year, 12th day of the first month, in the second year of the first week of the 70th week. We have entered the 121st Jubilee. And we have now entered, because this is a new year, we've entered the 5,974th year since the birth of sin in 3973 BC. And we have entered the 6,001st year since the transformation of a caveman into Adam in 3980 BC. And I get these dates from the celestial signs right here. 728, 39, 73 BC, and Revelation 12, 923, 2017. All right. So, the original calendar. The Almighty gave us one calendar, and He prophesied that we would pervert it. He prophesied that to us in Jubilees. Okay. Now, Scripture says that He's the same. He never changes, right? So why would He give us one calendar in the beginning and then another calendar and then another calendar and then another calendar? Right? He didn't. He gave us one calendar which mimics or mirrors what they do in New Jerusalem, which is what Paul tells us in Hebrews. Everything is a mirror of the heavenly, which is New Jerusalem. Right? So he gave the true calendar to the original prophet, Enoch. Enoch was the original prophet. He got most of the prophecies straight from the Almighty. And all the prophecies of Scripture are basically just a reiteration of what the Almighty gave to Enoch. All right, and then Enoch passed that knowledge on to Noah. So Noah knew time, he knew the stars, he knew the celestial signs, he knew all that. Because he got it straight from his grandfather, Enoch, which got it straight from the Almighty and the angels. Right? And the calendar is completely mathematical and solar. It has nothing to do with the moon. Right? Then the Almighty had to reteach it to Abraham via the angels because it got lost. Between Noah and Abraham, it got lost a little bit. So he had to reteach it to Abraham via his angels. Then the Almighty had to reteach it again to the ancient Israelites after they lost all knowledge of the Almighty during the time in Egypt. They completely assimilated into the Egyptian way of life for those 400 years. And when he was reteaching this knowledge during the 40 years in the wilderness. He prophesied to Moses in Jubilees that we would pervert the telling of time. Period. That's exactly what happened. Just like in Egypt, when the Israelites were under Babylonian control, when they were in exile, they began to assimilate and they perverted time with the Babylonian way of telling time, which is where the lunar pagan influence came in. All right. Nowhere in Scripture does the Almighty tell us to look at the moon. Period. I don't care what these people say. I don't care what the Jewish calendar says. All that is Babylonian influence. Pagan Babylonian influence. All right? Looking for the new moon. Babylonian. Well, it says new moon in the Scriptures. Yeah, because it's a poor translation. It should say new month, not new moon. Okay, fast forward to our modern day, and the telling of time is completely perverted and pagan. We have how many different calendars, how many different cultures' calendars. It's just completely perverted, right? People may shrug off the importance of Psalm 90 to number our days carefully, but Scripture is clear that we need to keep the commandments and do the will of the Almighty. He's also very clear that we need to observe the holy days, just like we observe the Sabbath, which is the fourth commandment. And the Sabbath commandment comes before not murdering. So that should tell you how important it is. If the commandments are laid out in order of importance, which to me it's obvious that they are, because the first three are all about the Almighty, and the fourth one is the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath, keeping it holy. So the fact that it comes before the other commandments after that should tell you how important it is. It tells me how important it is. Timing is important in almost everything. So why would we think it's not important to be in rhythm with our Holy Father? All right. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I've searched far and wide. I've not found anyone who has a complete grasp on the true and proper way of telling time. I'm not saying that I have it perfect, but I believe I'm closer than anyone else because I use all points of reference: Scripture, Enoch, Jubilees, Dead Sea Scrolls, mathematics, Spirit of Truth. And then I came to my own conclusion after objectively looking at all the evidence presented. And this is what I'm sharing. All right? So yeah, there's some people out there that are close, but they have the Omer count off. The start of the Omer count. So yeah, if you get the start of the year right, but then you get the start of the Omer count right, well then everything after the Omer count, it's incorrect. Or not everything, but at least the things that deal with the Omer count, which is Pentecost, new oil, new wine, new wood. So the true calendar is mathematical, period. All the feast days are on the same day of the year. The lunar lunacy is pagan influence from Babylon. And the scriptures that are used for that false understanding are misinterpreted translations. New moon in Scripture does not mean a literal new moon. It means the new month. They took the word for month and said it means moon. Moon in Hebrew is Yareach. Yarich. Yarach. Yarich, however you say it. So when it is literally speaking about the moon, that's the Hebrew word right there. Now, when it says new moon in the scripture, it uses Kodesh, which is appointed time. But because of the pagan influence of Babylon, the translator translated it as new moon rather than the appointed time, the beginning of the month. And why is the beginning of the month appointed time? Well, it's crystal clear in Numbers 28:11. When it says, at the beginning of each month is when you do such and such of a sacrifice. Any idea of the moon being part of the true calendar, it's false. It's pagan, and will completely throw everything off, which is a fulfillment of the prophecy that the Almighty said, that we will pervert it, and we will be celebrating holy days on unclean days, and on unclean days that we think are unclean will be the holy days. And that's exactly what's been going on. Because the Jews, right now, this day, are celebrating the Passover. But yet the Passover is always on a Monday evening into Tuesday. It's never on a Saturday into Sunday. Now, the true calendar is completely mathematical, but it uses the great sign of the spring equinox as a level bubble that intercalates to balance the years, which is what the priestly cycle mirrors. Right? What do I mean by that? I mean that in a true solar year, it's 365.1 days. All right? Well, in the calendar that the Almighty gave to us, it's 364 days. So that it's 1.1 days short. Okay? So, how does the Almighty calendar make up for that short day? Well, it intercalates with this great sign. And I'll show you what I'm saying. Okay. All right. So, the first day of the year is always on a Wednesday, which mirrors the menorah in New Jerusalem. Okay. The menorah, which has the middle lampstand being higher than the others, which is the fourth day. The menorah representing the 7 days of the week. The fourth being the highest. Why? Because it's talking about the first day, which is the fourth age. It's mirroring the fourth age. The fourth age is when the Almighty made the sun, moon, and the stars for signs and for seasons, meaning time. The fourth age is when time, the telling of time began, when it was able to begin. All right? So that's why the Almighty has that as the first day of the year. Wednesday is always the first day of the year. Okay? And it's mirroring the menorah. All right? Now, there's 364 days in a year. So, the first day of the year will always be the Wednesday after the Tuesday, which is the 364th day. And it will be within the week of the spring equinox, the great sign. But the intercalation occurs when the spring equinox will cross over onto a Sunday. So, if the spring equinox is on a Monday, the 364th day will be that next Tuesday, and then Wednesday will be for the first day. If the spring equinox happens on a Tuesday, the 364th day, then the next day will be the first day. If the spring equinox happens on the exact day, Wednesday, that'll be the first day. If the spring equinox happens on a Thursday after the 364th day, that'll be the first day. Friday, Saturday, first day. But when it crosses over to the Sunday, so the 364th day is a Tuesday here, but the spring equinox is on this Sunday, the first day crosses over to this following week, this following Wednesday. And that's how the intercalation occurs and makes up for those short days every 6 years, I believe it is, which is the priestly cycle. The priestly cycle mirrors that. And that's how they kept it in rhythm in the ancient times. Okay? Like next year, the equinox is going to be on a Sunday. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So, what does that mean? All right, 2022. So the equinox is going to be on Sunday, March 20th. All right. But the 364th day is going to be on Tuesday, March 15th. So normally, the following day would be the first day of the year. But since the equinox enters over into the next week, the first day skips over to the following week after the equinox, which is the 23rd. And these couple days is how it makes up for that, for the intercalation, the 364 days being short of the actual solar year, which is 365.1. Okay? Hopefully I'm explaining that clearly. And you get an understanding what I'm talking about. Because it's critical. Because that's how the first day of the year begins. Alright? And that's how it balances with the solar year. Alright? So there's always there's 364 days in a year, 52 weeks in a year. 30 days in a month, but there's 4 seasonal markers. And so basically the final month before spring, there's 31 days instead of 30. Because it's considered a seasonal marker. The final month before winter begins is 31 days. All right? And on and on. Seven days a week based on the menorah in New Jerusalem, with the first day of the year always occurring on the 4th day of the week, a Wednesday. First day of each year occurs on the 4th day of the week following the 364th day. All right. Okay, we already went over this. All right. What's this all about? Okay. So what does this all mean? This all means that since it's mathematical, the feast days are always on the same day. So all this baloney about one day the Passover is on a Monday, the next year it's on a Tuesday, that's all baloney. The feast days are always on the same day. Okay? And you could pause this and go over it But Passover is always on the 13th day of the year, a 13th day of the first month, which is a Monday evening into Tuesday. All right, and on and on and on. Now, the other critical, besides the first day of the first month, the first day of the year being critical, the other critical day is the first fruits of the barley, which is the start of the Omer count. And that is the Sunday after the Sunday during Passover. All right? Why is that critical? Because if you get that wrong, then you get all the you get Pentecost wrong, you get new oil wrong, and you get new wine and new wood wrong. Now, Pentecost is the only one that's required for us to observe properly, but you're still at a rhythm. All right? Now, why do I believe because there's some people out there that have a good grasp on the calendar, but they get the first fruits of the barley wrong. They put it on the 26th day of the first month, which is what the Dead Sea Scrolls says. So basically what I'm saying, I'm going against the Dead Sea Scrolls. I use the Dead Sea Scrolls for a lot of things, but I believe they have the first fruits of the barley wrong. Why? Because of mathematics. Let me show you. When you do the first fruits of the barley on the day after the Sabbath, which is what the scripture says, the people who put it on the 26th are saying that the Sabbath is the whole week of Passover. So they're saying the whole week of Passover completes, then the Sabbath after that, plus 1 day, is the first fruits of the barley, which, if you step outside of your box and just listen to that, it's a little ridiculous. Okay, so some people believe the first fruits of the barley are the day after Passover. So right here. Others believe it's the day after the week of the Passover, on the 26th. But I believe the mathematics confirm it, is that it's exactly what the scripture says. The day after the Sabbath, after the Passover, meaning the Sunday after the Sabbath during Passover week. All right, which makes complete sense logically, because all these people in ancient Israel made a pilgrimage, possibly hundreds of miles, made a pilgrimage to come for Passover. And then these people believe that it's the following week. They go home and come back. What do? Or do they just stay an extra week? What is it? Well, I don't think it's either. I think it's within the Passover week, which they make the pilgrimage to come to Jerusalem. They're there for the Passover week, and after the Great Assembly, they go home and they begin their harvesting. They don't go home and come back, or they don't stay an extra week for the first fruits of the barley. No, the first fruits of the barley is within that week. And why do I say it fits mathematically? Because the first fruits of the barley, when you start it on the 19th day, so then the first Sabbath would be the 25th. All right. And then when you do the 7 Sabbaths, boom, the 7th Sabbath is on the 361st day. 7th Sabbath of the 7th Sabbath cycles is on the 361st day, which is the final Sabbath before the end of the year. Now, if you did it the other way, the final Sabbath would cross over into the new year, which just doesn't make sense. But this makes perfect sense mathematically, that the final Sabbath is on the final Sabbath of the 52nd week. So it fits mathematically and it fits logically. Why would the Almighty have them all make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem and then, oh yeah, go home and come back a week later for first fruits of the barley? No. It all makes sense that it's all clumped in. Plus, it mathematically makes sense. So, if you had the first day right, but you had the first fruits of the barley, which is the start of the Omer count, incorrect, then that's going to throw off your celebration of Pentecost. You're going to be celebrating Pentecost on the 15th day. Now, some people use Jubilees to say that this is the 15th day, but I've went over that in the past. No. Abraham got there on the 7th day. Oh, man, let's see, what is that? Jubilees. Let's try. Oh, there. No, is that the 14th day? All right, I'm not finding it. Oh, let's see. That would be the 4th. Yeah, I'm not finding it. 5th. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm letting the Here we are. Here we are. I found it finally. Okay, in the middle of the month. All right. That's how they use that. Okay. Pentecost, 8th. Okay. And I'm burning up some time here, I know. Pardon me. Wait a second. Bethel. Here it is. Oh, yes, I think I finally got it. All right, so let's see here. Okay, here it is, yes. And Israel took his journey from Haran, from the house, on the 1st of the 3rd month. And he went on the way of the Well of Oath, and he offered a sacrifice to God on his to God of his father Isaac on the 7th of this month. Okay, so he left on the 1st of the month. He got to the Well of Oath on the 7th and offered a sacrifice. Okay, meaning on the 7th, he offered the sacrifice and celebrated first fruits. Okay, then it says, he remembered the dream that he had, and he remained there 7 days. Okay, it's not saying that he celebrated the first fruits for them 7 days. It says he remained there 7 days because he remembered the dream he had. And he was waiting for the Almighty to speak to him whether he should go to Egypt or not. So he offered the sacrifice on the 7th day. He celebrated the first fruits, remained there 7 days, and then the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Go." And on the 16th day, he went. All right. Meaning they are wrong. It's not the 26th when you begin the barley count, the Omer count. It's the 19th. All right. And then you can pause and go over the rest of these. But that's the main understanding of the calendar. And then here are other days that we should observe. You can pause and go over these. The days of remembrance. We don't have to take off work or anything, but we're supposed to blow the shofar and remember Noah and what occurred. The days of fasting. You can pause this and go over it. Now, the big separation between who goes in the first rapture and who doesn't. This is the judgment that begins in the house of the Almighty. Why? Because the wise virgins are judged as worthy. Everybody else is judged as non-worthy. Okay? And why are the wise virgins judged as worthy? Because they keep the word of his patience, of his perseverance. And the definition of that word is in Revelation 14:12. Those who keep the commandments and faith. Not one or the other, both. Christians have faith, but don't keep the commandments. Jews keep the commandments, but don't have faith. The wise virgins do both. Okay, so there's some convergence of events coming up. Messiah tells us to be on watch, to be alert, to be ready when everything converges. All right? So, we're entering the Passover. When you look up the Hebrew word for destroy in Exodus 12:13, when the Almighty's talking about he's going to destroy the firstborn in Egypt, the Hebrew word is maschith. It comes from the root shakath, destruction, specifically a snare. All right? Well, in Luke 21, we're told that the sudden destruction is a snare, a trap that comes upon all those who dwell on the earth. And it specifies those who dwell on the earth. Why does it specify those who dwell on the earth? Because there's a group of people who don't dwell on the earth, and they're the wise virgins, the congregation of Philadelphia, the elders who go through the open door to New Jerusalem. Why am I saying this? Because there's a parallel here of the sudden destruction, which is the first rapture, and the destruction of ancient Egypt. All right? And the sudden destruction is the first rapture, because the second rapture, it's not sudden. It's long and drawn out. You have the 7-year trial. You have the 5th seal martyrs. You have the 6th seal where the wormhole opens. All kinds of stuff happens. New Jerusalem comes through. There it is in near space. This gigantic thing is the size of the moon. Glorious and brilliant. Scaring everybody that doesn't know who it, that knows that they're not in a right relationship with the Messiah and the Almighty. It's not sudden. The first rapture is sudden. Okay, and the Passover pilgrimage, I believe the 3 pilgrimages are representative of the 3 raptures, the 3 main harvest raptures. Like I said, the one rapture is like a re-rapture of the 144,000. But there's 3 main harvest raptures that mirror the harvest in ancient Israel. The Passover pilgrimage, the barley, the Pentecost pilgrimage, the wheat, the tabernacle pilgrimage, the grapes. Okay? And the Passover ritual. You're supposed to do the meal and spend the night in full dress and readiness to go in haste. And it's a ritual of being on watch, being alert. And this is why the Messiah, when he was in Gethsemane praying, when he came back and the apostles were sleeping, this is why he was so angry. He wasn't angry because they were tired and fell asleep. He was angry because this is a ritual that they were doing for thousands of years. And the apostles should have known this, and they should have been being alert on watch, but they weren't. That's why he was upset. Now, I personally believe the rapture should happen before unleavened bread, because unleavened bread is when the priests are consecrated, which I believe is what's occurring in Revelation 4 and 5, kind of, sort of. because the congregation of Philadelphia, the wise virgins, are acting as the parts of the priests in New Jerusalem. They're the ones closest to the tabernacle or the altar, whatever you want to say. So, what's my point? Well, my point is that the next couple coming weeks are very high watches, specifically the Passover. Because the Passover is the night of watching. It's the Lord's Day. It's the Passover pilgrimage. It's when the priests begin their consecration, their 7-day consecration. Okay? So the priests begin their 7-day consecration on Passover. It ends on the 6th day of unleavened bread. Then the 8th day is when the Almighty appeared to the ancient Israelites. Okay. Now, so in my opinion is that because we've passed this Sabbath, the next major high watch is Passover, and it's an extremely high watch, as high as they get. All right. And if nothing were to happen on Passover, then another high watch is always the first fruits of the barley. And then the solemn assembly of unleavened bread, the 21st day of the first month, is a high watch because it's mirroring Elijah. However, to me, the first rapture should occur before that, because if this is mirroring when the fire fell when they set up the tabernacle on the 8th day after the 7 days of consecration of Aaron and his sons, or the same thing with the time of Elijah, well, it's mirroring the 8th day, the solemn assembly day. But that's when the priests are already consecrated. They already went through the consecration process. So it would make more sense for me that the first rapture occurs before that, so that they're already there for this. But I'm just saying, if nothing happens, this is a high watch. Passover is the highest watch. Nothing happens on Passover. First fruits of the barley, Saturday and the Sunday, high watch. And then, of course, if nothing happens, then the solemn assembly is a high watch. All right, but I encourage you to be extremely alert for Passover. And we know President Trump is the end time Elijah. And the only thing that needs to happen, the only thing that didn't happen yet with the life of Elijah is the sword, when he slayed the false prophets. It didn't happen yet. But everything else before that happened. So the only thing that didn't happen is the fire to fall and lick up the sacrifice, which, like I said in past videos, that's the open door in heaven. The sacrifice that's licked up is the wise virgins, and they're taken up to New Jerusalem. So the fire to fall and then the sword. That hasn't happened yet. And it's not going to be mistaken. None of this is going to be mistaken. This is going to be a universe transition. All right? So, I hope that helped. And I encourage you all, right now is the fast of Ezra, the 12th day of the first month. I will be doing that in the morning. And then I'm going to continue into the next day, which is the Passover prep day. And that's the fast of the firstborn. So I'm going to be fasting these next 2 days. I encourage you to join me. Of course, this video won't be getting out until probably tomorrow afternoon, but, you know, at least you'll have time. If you hear this video, you'll have time to do the fast of the firstborn prior to the Passover meal. Hope this helped. Hope I explained it well. If the rapture happens, if I don't make it, I'll let you guys know. If I do make it, then, you know, study my videos, especially this one about the calendar, because of course you want to be in rhythm with the Almighty and the Messiah. That's like one of the, one of the early foundations to have. So, may the will of our Kodesh Abba be done and his kingdom come in the name of his only begotten Son, Kodesh Yahshua HaMashiach. Take care.